For the first time ever in the 15 years of social media, how many followers you have no longer matters as much. I've spent 15 years amassing 60 million followers, and someone in this room can post a video tomorrow on TikTok and get more views than I get, which is insane. The merit is on the individual piece of content. Social media is disproportionately the most important opportunity for this room, and yet we continue to underestimate it. For 95% of this room, if this room was making 1 or 2 videos a day on their phone, in their hotel room right now, about insights or thoughts they have that impact their customers, whether it's through tax law or opportunities, if they just made a video and said, I'm Carl, I live in the outskirts of Columbus, Ohio, I'm a CPA, I do this, here's the fun fact of the day, or the thing that is top of mind, or the biggest mistake people just made during this last tax season, or where most of you just left money on the table, XYZ, 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 and Carl upstairs posted that video organically on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and then took $50 and ran ads in the 5-mile radius of his office for that video, $50, the 5-mile radius of his office. There is a stunning percentage likelihood that Carl would pick up a customer today. Do you know what else I know? None of those people in this audience did that today. So, what do I think? I think that there is a naivete in the world, and definitely in this room, on how powerful social media marketing is. It's now been around long enough that it's not the shiny new thing. Many of you, actually watch this will be fun for you, Mon. How many people here have tried social media marketing but it's not really worked for your business the way you've liked? Raise your hand, I'm sure it's plenty. Just raise your hand, please. Raise it high, don't be shy, right? All right, so the 7 or 8 people that raised their hand, which is a whole nother fucking problem. But for the 10 to 12 people that raised their hand, you have to understand, because it didn't work, doesn't mean that social media doesn't work. It means that they didn't do a good job at it. And this is important to understand. You know, I don't know if you know this, but if you play professional basketball, you make an extraordinary amount of money. I would really like to do that. I don't have the skill set to do that, thus I don't get the results. I am going to spend the next hour here desperately trying to motivate, encourage, eliminate excuses of the collective group in here around contemporary marketing and technology, because the history of business is completely easy to understand, which is the following. Whoever takes advantage of the opportunities, both in the technologies that are available to them at that moment and the marketing arbitrage that sits of the moment, win. When the radio was invented, many businesses exploded because we went from just print to a radio device, and some of the most iconic brands, Coca-Cola, leveraged a new medium called radio. Procter & Gamble is one of the biggest consumer brand companies in the world because they were the leading advertiser on television in the 50s and 60s while their competitors were still figuring it out. Social media is disproportionately the most important opportunity for this room. And yet, we continue to underestimate it. And that is what I want to get everyone to understand in this room, that it will lead to new customers, and too many people here are relying on the word of mouth of their reputation of being in the business in their area for a long period of time, and they will get outflanked by people that use these platforms, and I think that's a mistake.
Talk a little bit about the sort of range of people on social. A lot of people in this room, have challenged getting staff. I mean, staffing is a giant issue for this profession. How can we be authentic with their social media posting and still, live into who they are, but also attract and get in front of people who might be interested in working there, as well as just making sure their clients feel connected and engaged? Is this something that they can be doing in a different way?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think a lot of you have built your careers through your people skills, right? It's not super complicated. I think people struggle to be authentic on camera because people are insecure. And people change in front of a camera because they're worried about judgment on the other side. Humans buy from humans. And some people overthink variables. I think a lot of us in this room are not Gen Alpha, and we remember where, a suit and tie and the way you presented yourself was an imperative variable. I think we can all agree the world has become dramatically more casual. I'm wearing a baseball cap. Things have changed. And I think that the authenticity is an incredibly easy game once you understand what's actually happening here, which is humans will always buy from humans when they trust. It's very hard to trust someone when you can feel it's not fully them. They're holding back. So, all I would do is encourage people to not overthink what they're saying on video or in the written word or the copy that supports a picture they put out on these mediums, because that's what's hurting people. But I'll be honest with you, Monica, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried that I believe that every business in this room should be posting 2 times a day, minimally, on these platforms to get employees and to get customers. And I think we're millions of miles away from that in this room.
It sounds like the mistake is not making mistakes, it's not doing it at all.
That's right. I think people have done a ton of different things with social media that's hurting you. I think a lot of you don't post on it on an ideology of what you think about social media. There's a lot of people here who don't post on social media because they have a philosophical point of view about what social media means to society. I want the kids to go outside and play too. But your political views or your ideologies of how the world should be left at the door when we're talking about making money. So I think people haven't put in the work to figure out how to be good at it, what platforms do what does the first 3 seconds have to look like in a video to get people to actually watch it, what's the copy that puts it. So there's just a lot of one-on-one hurdles that I want to get through. But as far as employee acquisition, it is disproportionately the way things are working right now. This same 15, 10-mile radius advertising that I'm telling you about to get a customer is exactly how you're gonna find those needles in the rough that you're looking for employees, because it is not lost on me the friction that this industry is now finding with the expectation of compensation that the youth that used to drive so much of the scale is looking for in comparison to what you can actually pay them. But good news, AI is going to replace them all, and so you'll be fine.
So I'm embarrassed to say that I spend more time on Facebook than other channels by age and gender. Do they have to be in Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn and Facebook?
If they want money. What are we talking about here? You don't have to do anything. You're more than allowed to slowly go out of business. Man, I'm being serious with this. Look, what can I tell you? I didn't want to wake up this morning and go to the gym. I really didn't. I just think that we're talking about business and work. I didn't make up the rules. I'm not happy that marketing changes every minute. I wish it was the 1950s. I would be Don Draper. I'd be in Midtown Manhattan right now having a cocktail and doing business. I don't like that this stuff changes. You've seen my career for 20 years. I've been on top of everything. Do you know what it feels like to be at the top of the game and then see TikTok come along and be like, damn it, now I have to learn all this too? I'm not thrilled I like easy too, I'm a human. Do they have to be? They don't have to do anything. But you're missing opportunity for customers and employees if you're not on these channels. You're allowed to decide. But the world's changing. How many people here get business from Google AdWords? Raise your hand. Raise it high, please. I'm just trying to get a sense. Great. So for the 7 or 8 people that just raised their hands, again, a problem. We'll get to that in a minute. I mean, Google's in trouble. We are, right now as we all sit here, AI, how many people now use ChatGPT or Perplexity to do search instead of just Google? Raise your hands. Raise it high. Actually, stand up, if you don't mind, please. Don't be lazy on me. I want your fellow teammates to see this.
This is a good showing.
Please keep standing up if this is you. This is important. This is a room that's barely raised its hands for social media marketing and search. And yet more than half the room, and again, this is not the Silicon Valley elite we're looking at right now. More than half the room right now is now using ChatGPT versus Google. This is a profound indication that I want you to see. What do you think is happening to Google AdWords if all these people are no longer even seeing it? You can sit, thank you. So things are changing. Google AdWords is gonna look like the Yellow Pages in 7 years. That's crazy. So for that gentleman in the white shirt and others that raised their hand, they're gonna start losing those customers from that channel. We have to continue to adjust. I just don't know anything else than adapt or die. I prefer not to die in business. It's about outcome.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit more about AI.
Okay.
Obviously, it's here to stay. It's scary in some cases, but it can create efficiencies. What should this room be thinking about for AI in our day-to-day? I mean, you just talked about ChatGPT, but what else, can you offer?
Well, I think, it all depends on how you want to look at it. Like, the reality is this is the biggest technology shift that we've faced since the internet itself. This is big, big. Let there be no confusion. This is the biggest opportunity to people in this room, and this is the single thing that's gonna put people out of business in this room. It's black and white. So I think first and foremost, actually this is a good question for this room. How many people in this room are retiring in the next 5 years? And I don't mean you're gonna crush it and like dominate the next 5 years and buy an island. I mean you're old and you're finished. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so for the, 7. So for the 7 people that just raised their hands, I have some good news. You'll probably be able to use one of my least favorite business strategies, which is this, on this issue, and probably see yourself out. For the rest of the people in this room, and I could speak for 5 hours on why I think social media videos and advertising will change your life. For as much passion as I have on that, I'd be willing for you to never do social media marketing in exchange for you spending 1 hour a day going forward, learning about AI and using AI. This is big, big, man. This is big, 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 big. Like, nothing scares me, given who I am as a businessman and entrepreneur. This has eaten up an enormous amount of my time in the last year to protect myself from having my companies exist. Here's why. This technology will be better at doing my taxes for me than anybody in this room, and it won't even be close. That's it. I don't know what else to say. And it'll take 1 second. And that's real. And like, I don't know how you don't focus on what does that mean, right? This leads to why I want so many people to build personal brand in here. I believe one of the few things that will be defensible in the next decade or two is people wanting to do things with you. And I think the way people want to do things with you is they discover you and see you every day on the internet. But the task at hand is profound. The AI is able to do all the work, and that's that. And I don't know how to sugarcoat it. So there's a couple things. In the next 5 years, 10 years, before consumers fully go to a place where they are using these tools at scale, for a lot of people in the next 2 or 3 tax seasons, if they listen to me and learn how to use AI over the next year's tax season, it will be them and AI doing all the work, and they will never worry about the issues that they're having with employees or outsourcing to the Philippines or anything else ever again.
I think that's great news. I mean, this is a relationship business. Trust is paramount. If they can take away some of the menial tasks and focus on the relationships and the consulting, that is where they make
that second part. That second part. I think this is not lost on any of you. I know a lot of you are moving in this direction. Getting into the consulting, being the right hand, it's going to become imperative. Trust is going to become so uncomfortably important. Trust over task should sit as a sign above everybody's, computer screen. It should be your wallpaper on your iPhone right now. Trust over task. Getting paid for just the blocking and tackling of what you've done historically is gonna get harder and harder. Getting more integrated and becoming a concierge to these businesses, I think has incredible merit and would be 100% what I would be doing if I was sitting out there.
So this group would not say that they're bleeding edge, leading edge.
You don't say.
But they want to be in the mix. They know that they need to be in the game. How can they be on trend related to AI and not, bleeding edge?
And by the way, when I say you don't say, I go to every one of these events with zero prejudgment or what have you. My answer is based on the fact that so few people are doing the social media marketing and the Google AdWords. But I have good news. What's amazing about technology is you could have missed every trend of the last decade, and if you actually decide to get serious and do the homework, an hour a day, what does AI mean? How do I use AI? And AI is crazy itself. You can use AI to get smart about AI. You can literally go into ChatGPT and be like, literally this is what you type in. All right, this morning I was at a keynote with Gary Vaynerchuk and he made me feel some sort of way. Like you can literally type these kind of things in. I am an accountant, I am a fractional CFO, whatever it might be. You can literally talk to it on literally for 7 minutes. 7 minutes. The biggest issue right now for a lot of you using AI is you don't know how to be good at using AI yet. Remember when we first started using search engines? We didn't know what we were doing either. The first time I used a search engine, I just typed in wine, enter. I didn't know. You got better at it. You're gonna get better at using ChatGPT and things of that nature, but you can literally talk out and say, what are the 13 apps I should be using if I'm an accountant to save myself 10 to 15 hours a week on tasks that I might be doing in Excel? I mean, it's incredible. Literally talk to it like you're talking to a therapist or a strategist. It's profound. I don't even type, I literally audio it. So I get every nuance of what I want in there. So I think what I'm excited about, what motivates me to continue to do what I'm doing right in this nanosecond is I'm desperate for one person in this audience to hear me and say, you know what, I have an hour a day. Yeah, I'm doing this for another 20 years. I don't want to fall behind. This is real stuff. Gary's not wrong. Let me put in the hour a day. And you can literally go from someone who's been not on the bleeding edge to being the most bleeding edge because you put in the work. I genuinely think about it like health and wellness. This will not be lost on this crew. I'm sure you're aware, maybe you've lived this in your life or you've seen it in someone that you know. Some people do not live healthy for 20 years, eating, drinking, staying up, no exercise, and then they just start. And it's a little ugly at first, it's hard, but a year later, it's a lot better. And that's exactly how I feel about this technology thing. You might have been the person that passed on learning how to do search and you kept doing direct mail instead. You decided social media was stupid. You could have been, apps, you could be that person. And yet tomorrow, you can decide that this keynote this morning motivated you and you agree, and now you spend an hour a day researching, and you could be cutting edge in a year, and I could not recommend that more because I believe that this AI thing is big, big. And some of you are old enough looking around here to remember we underestimated the internet, and a lot of the internet companies have been a problem for our business too. And this is bigger than that.
Right, so not just in your business, you spend time with a lot of companies all year round as well. What's an example, and it doesn't have to be AI specifically,
Yep.
there's other kinds of automation, but what's a great example of a company that used automation or AI to sell their strategic services or build another business, like do something drastically different?
Well, I mean, you know, that is just, I would argue that's the plight of everything. Let me give you an example. When the iPhone was invented, it changed the landscape, right? And so when I basically think of that as the watershed moment that we all live in today. I mean, when I think about companies that have built things, I think about things like Uber, like completely
Waymo now.
like Waymo, I mean, self-driving, like what about the way people order from restaurants? Do you remember, and again, this is what's fun, not talking to a high school crowd, like, you remember that we used to like have to go into our kitchen drawer and find a menu and call the restaurant and stay on hold and place the order, and my answer to your question is everything. Like every business has transformed. People have taken market share. People have evolved. Look what's happened to retail. Like everybody in this room now has the expectations that they can order a blender and it should be at their house in a couple hours. Not wait to Saturday to go to, you know, like, I mean, it's funny how that question formed in my head, man. Like, I don't think anything's the same. Look at dating. Again.
That's actually worse in some ways. I mean, just like the apps instead of the personal connection. I don't know, like dating, that's a hard one for me.
Yeah, but remember, like the app is just the gateway drug to get you there, right? It's just the technology to get you to the date. I do not think like randomly going to bars with, you know, the hope of finding your spouse 30 years ago is some ideologically better thing than, you know, using an app to find someone you're attracted to or have a conversation with to then create a date later, right? I think that what we do is society and business people are very good about being romantic about yesterday and demonizing tomorrow. I remember when, like a couple years ago when people were like, you should send people letters, that's good. I'm like, why? Like, why did we put like writing on a piece of paper and sending it in the mail on this ideological pedestal versus sending a text? I understand why we did it. We decided that that was more effort and meant more. But so is like walking instead of driving. So is a million things. I think we are incredibly scared of being left behind. But I want to remind everybody here, you're only left behind if you choose to be lazy. Exactly. But I want to say something that's important to me. This room is full of judgment. You're business owners and executives. You've judged Gen Z workers for the last 5 years. You love to say, in my day, during tax season, I would have worked 800 hours a week and got paid $1. These fucking kids are full of, right? Right? This crew has judged the living crap out of, a lot of people in this room have been successful. You've judged, you have so much pride in how hard you've worked. I know this crew. I am this crew. Here's my problem. Why are you being lazy now? You judge people being lazy in things that come easy to you. I'm not interested in what comes easy. I'm interested in what comes hard. I get that you didn't grow up with AI and social media. News alert, I'm 49, I didn't either. But I put in the work. Oh, it got quiet in here, Mon.
I want to talk about something that I saw this week from you that spoke to me.
Okay?
And it's about how we feel as how we feel as humans. There was a post that got into what you give out, you get back.
Yeah.
And it's about our narrative. And if you think about what you post, or actually a conversation in your kitchen, you're talking about a ski trip, and all of a sudden, we all know 30 minutes later, we're seeing destinations and ski sales in our feeds. But you talked about if you're trying to feel better and be more positive, what you put out there is what you get back. Can you talk about that? Because I thought that was amazing.
What I was referring to in this piece of content that went viral this last week is people think the algorithm is changing you. A lot of you have demonized social media because you think it's bad and it's trying to pump certain things. What I don't think any of you realize is your news feed, your algorithm, is actually exposing who you actually are, not changing who you are. And in the video I said, you want me to prove this to you? I've got a way to do it. And by the way, I hope some of you do this, what I'm about to say. If you want to go into Facebook right now, or Instagram, or whatever app you use, TikTok, if you go into the search at the top and you type in motivation, positivity, good news, good vibes, happiness, joy, you type that in and you get results. And in those results, you go to all the videos, 20, 50, in the video I said 200 of them, and you like 200 of them. And you leave 25 comments on the posts. The next morning when you wake up, your entire algorithm will look different. The end. The end. And so I think that humans have become incredibly good at not being accountable. We have become the generation, including our generation, of pointing fingers, not thumbs. It's this president's fault, it's that president's fault. It's my mom's fault, it's my dad's fault. It's my boss's fault, it's China's fault. It's everyone's fault but ourselves. Because I'm such an advocate for marketing on social media, I'll be at an airport, it's happened several times in the last year, and a parent will come up to me like, GaryVee, big fan, but I gotta tell you, I really don't like that you push social media, it's really bad, and I don't like my 14-year-old being on TikTok. And I look at these people and I'm like, so take it off their phone. The hell do you want from me? I'm literally talking about these things from a business lens. I'm not telling people that it's good for their health or they should do it. If you don't like it on your child's phone, be a goddamn parent and delete it off the phone. Amen. Amen is right. In the same way that I'm concerned that a lot of people have ideologies or political views about these things right now and not using it for their business. If I didn't, you know this about me, I'm inherently incredibly private. I've posted more than any human in the last 20 years, but none of my family, no pictures of my kids, none of my personal beings. I'm private. I don't want to share that. I view these things as business tools. This is marketing and sales and recurring revenue and real life that you need to pay your income and your taxes on. Your life is dependent on your business. These tools are incredible for that. But yes, I think that a lot of people in this room, if you don't like what you're getting in your feeds and you're feeling depressed, it's because you got sucked into fear. My friends, mainstream media pushes fear, both sides. It's all fear-based. And then humans on social media amplify that stuff. It's just fear. And I don't believe in that fear. The data's very, very black and white, my friends. Let me say this nice and slow to everybody. I really want you to leave with this morning. As we sit in this room this morning, this is the greatest moment to be alive as a human being. For life expectancy, for civility, for all the things that you think are happening bad in the world. People are, man, it's so crazy. People are like, Gary, the kids especially are really sucked into this bullshit. They're like, Gary, it's never been worse. I'm like, bro, do you know what the Holocaust was? Did you have history class? Do you know what the Black Plague was? You know what Hiroshima is? Like people are like, do you know that everybody used to die of heart attack? Our grandparents' generation all died of heart attacks. We didn't have that figured out yet. Remember when people, when most of this crew was kids, when somebody lived to 60, we're like, oh, not bad. And so I think people are delusional and have bought into the wrong narrative. And so to answer your question fully, you don't like what your feed looks like? You can change it today in 2 hours. The end.
Love it. All right, let's talk a little bit about making the shift. So again, we want to move toward an advisory mindset. How does this group, this room, become more entrepreneurial and innovative?
Look, I always think about the path that has least financial, because I was born in the Soviet Union, so I grew up very, very poor immigrant life. Like, my family business had no money. So everything I think about is how do you use the least amount of money to make the most amount of stuff to happen? And that's why I'm obsessed with social. I don't know if you know this, it's free. Like, that's crazy, right? Like, I'm a marketer, like direct mail, newspaper ads, radio, television, billboards. I did all that stuff for my family business. That all cost money. When you send direct mail, like, hey, use me for taxi, that costs money. Social media is free. Free. So I believe and I'm just gonna be very prescriptive about this. I believe people in this room taking a phone to their face every day and giving advice as if they were giving advice to a client in front of them. Things to think about. What's amazing about this group is that it has incredible amounts of experience and pattern recognition of what common problems are, mistakes people make, issues. If you put that out there, it will come back to you. I believe that is the entrepreneurial spirit that people need here, which is the biggest opportunity in marketing history to get new customers is sitting in front of them right now, and most of us are not taking advantage of it. And I hate to be a dead horse, but I also hate making up stuff that isn't true. There's not a lot of things I can think of that are gonna crush for this room with very little cost. That is the thing. Daily videos on Facebook, especially Facebook, because after you post the video organically on your page, this little move that I keep telling you about, to spend $50, $100 to amplify the video locally, is the best tactic for businesses in this room right now.
All right. So I mentioned earlier the staffing challenge.
Yep.
And potentially for the younger people, but it goes beyond that. So what about culture? I mean, you talk a lot about culture. Talk about how this room can build a culture of innovation, a culture that they can attract not just younger people, but also engage with their audience.
How many people here have more than 5 employees? Raise your hand. Love it. So let's start with that part. I could not recommend more. Until I had 150 employees in my company, I met with every employee one-on-one multiple times a year. Dinners, group dinners, one-on-one dinners, 15-minute meeting check-ins. The way you build culture is by giving a crap. There are people in this room who have 10 employees who've not had a one-on-one for an hour with 2 of their employees in the last 3 years. Because we get caught up in other things, I get it. But I could not recommend more the thesis that has built every one of my businesses, which is I work for them, they don't work for me. The second you actually believe that, and I'm not saying that up here as like a cheerleader, rah, rah, rah. I'm saying it because I believe the number one vulnerability a lot of you have is lack of retention, right? That's what you don't want to happen. I know your business well enough to know, right? You'd like to have the same crew. It's easier. I really believe the way you retain people is by caring about them and realizing that they all have different wants and needs. I think the thing that was really eye-opening to me growing up, my father spent the first 23 years of his life in the Soviet Union. And so when I started working for my dad, he was the scariest, meanest boss I had ever seen. He was really tough on his employees. And it was just Soviet stuff, It was just, because in the Soviet Union, I know you guys are a bunch of Americans, let me educate you on what goes on over there. It was all black market. Everybody stole from every, thing because it was all communism and it was just yucky. So literally when I was 14, this is a funny story real quick for 1 second. The first day I ever worked in my dad's business, I was 14 years old. We lived 40 minutes from the store. My dad wakes me up at 7 a.m. I'm like devastated, this sucks. He's dragging me to the store. My dad is the opposite of me. The dude does not talk. So we literally drive 40 minutes and my father does not say one word to me. We pull up into the parking lot. He turns to me and in a heavy Ivan Drago accent, looked at me and said, "Keep an eye on the employees, they steal." That was the culture I was brought up in, and every essence of my body thought it was wrong because my mother was a complete angel and saw the world completely different, and I was raised by that woman at that point. I promised myself at 15 that I would be the best boss of all time. The biggest thing that I learned in this quest to be that good is that employees have different wants and needs, and it changes every year. The reason I want you to meet with your employees all the time is because this year Johnny wants a $5,000 raise. Maybe you don't want to give it to him, but that's what he wants. And maybe in 3 years, because he just had his first child, he wants a little more work-life balance during tax season, which you may not want to give. But by talking to your employees constantly, you will have a better pulse of what makes them tick, and it will give you the optionality to be able to feed that appetite at the time, which creates a higher propensity for you to create the retention that you're looking for. I believe in culture over everything, absolutely over everything.
All right, well, we have a ton of people in this room and I'm sure would like to hear more from you. And you shared a lot, obviously. We're keen to understand individually how you can help, but I would love to open up for this group to ask some questions. Gary's willing to take anything and everything you throw at him, and we have some people who will be around the room with mics, so you don't have to yell, just raise your hand and someone will come over to you, and feel free to ask him anything that's on your mind.
And truly anything, like it could be a one-on-one question, it could be something that you've seen me talk about that we didn't touch on here. This is literally my favorite part of the whole talk, so thank you for having me, and thanks, Man. My man, what's your name?
Good morning, this is Devan.
Come on.
You spoke about trust over task.
Yes.
And in the era of AI, the routine gets taken over by technology.
Yes.
With that being said, what would ultimately be at the edge of the technology, of evolution? Is it perception which will drive commerce, or value which will drive commerce, or perception to drive value as well?
Perception is reality. It will be perception.
It'll only be perception.
Of course, it's how we make decisions.
Get it?
Yeah.
So expertise, competence,
Will be commoditized.
makes a lot of sense.
Consideration comes from relevance. The reason people consider things, consider who they marry, consider what they buy, consider who they do business with. It comes from a place of relevance, right? Why do immigrants do business with immigrants, right? There's a relevance, right? Relevance, not just trust. In fact, I come from Russian culture. Russians don't trust Russians at all. They still do business with them because of relevance. So I think at the edge of this, it will be relevance. Hence why I'm pushing all of you to build personal brand, because I believe that is disproportionately your biggest moat.
Thank you.
Cheers. Questions?
Hi, Gary. My name's Haley. I work at Anchor, and you said something that really stood out to me. You said so many people were immunized yesterday and demonized tomorrow. Can you maybe talk about that in further detail and maybe give a couple of examples of that?
Haley, I think it's just how humans work. I think we're romantic about how it used to be. Like, I don't know, I think every example is that. I brought up the letter. Like, why writing a letter? Aren't the words the purpose there? Why are we putting the medium on a pedestal? People, it makes sense. As humans, our lives were much easier when we were children. And what we worried about was so mundane. A test, or this, or your crush not liking you. As you get older, you start worrying about bigger things. So, I think in general, it's just the human plight. And we just continue to let me give you an example. Uber. I was an early investor in Uber. it was wild watching people go through that. You know, like, think about how crazy Uber is now. People talk about, you know, how it used to be so safe when we were kids and we would hitchhike and all this, you know, some of the OGs in here. Do you know that there are 13-year-old girls all across the country going into strangers' cars every day on Uber, and parents feel safer with that? But at first they were scared about it. Now they feel more safe with it. Like I just think that we, you know, really have this inherent human structure to say it used to be better.
Good old days.
The good old days. And I get it. I like my good old days too. I liked going outside in the summer and playing and all that. But it's the good old days for kids right now. Like 9-year-olds are gonna think this was mundane because we're gonna all be robots in 30 years. Like, and I mean this very seriously. All of you are demonizing this right now as this is some awful device. This is gonna look like a beeper in 30 years. This is gonna be nothing. Nothing. In the next decade, we're all gonna be wearing glasses that are gonna be AI and AR and VR technologied out. We're not even gonna have phones. And you are all in this room in 15 years gonna be like, man, it was so much better when it was just a cell phone. All of you. And so, you know, there's a billion examples. You may?
Kavita, it was
Kavita.
really good to see too.
Thank you.
It is so amazing how you called out our coaches by even our social media. I was literally seeing in the mirror called putting in the self-sabotage, right? So, I mean, as an entrepreneur, as a professional, right, one of the holy grails is getting the knack of digital marketing. I mean, in this room, accepting you at this point, if anyone has got the digital marketer, commit to an outcome, right? I mean, we just won the battle, right? In terms of finding the talent, it seems like a holy grail where we never get there. We actually pay for their exploration. That's been my experience of working with digital marketing, right? So some insights on that, and if you could just say that if Gary was to start this fresh from today, how would you do it?
Thank you. If I was starting fresh from today, the only thing I think about when I'm starting a business is creating demand. Because it's oxygen. The reason I love marketing is it's offense. There's operations, there's balancing your checkbook, there's culture like I just talked about. But what I know is that more revenue solves all problems. The thing I'm trying to get everybody here is to really understand offense. Most people in here, as you know, rely on retention, not growth, right? They're like, yeah, but I've been with my people for 12 years or 16 years, and I'm concerned because I think there's a lot of technology coming that usually looks the part of the thing that stops people with working with the person they've always worked with. When it's that convenient and that well priced, it becomes a problem. I've been an OG in technology. One of my first talks ever was to a bunch of people that own bookstores telling them that Amazon was a problem. And their answer was, you don't get it, Gary. We've been a bookstore for 30 years in Stamford, Connecticut. We have a community. Our people are not gonna go on the World Wide Web and buy books. And I said to them as a kid, 18, I said, you don't get it. Convenience is king. And so if Gary was starting right now in this business, I would be making social media posts all day long, talking about what I know about tax law or balancing a checkbook or CFO fractionalization or whatever anyone does in here, or business consulting. I put out all my, how many people here follow me or have consumed some of my content? Thank you. The people that just raised their hand, I put out my best information for free. I believe that when you put out your best information for free, you actually get customers. And I think most people here think if they put out information for free, they would lose customers. That part.
Hi, Gary.
Hello.
My name is Vibhu. So you just gave an advice in terms of putting on content. So one of the things which I wanted to understand was accounting is such a highly regulated industry.
Yes,
So how?
by not breaking the law. But real quick, I'll tell you why I'm jumping in so quickly. I'm on the board of Spin Master, which is the #3 toy company. Toy marketing is more regulated than accounting. Chase is a client, Visa is a client. Diageo and Budweiser are clients. They're alcohol, they're incredibly regulated. I've run an agency for 15 years that only works with companies that are wildly regulated. One post sets us into trouble.
Agreed.
Don't make claims that you can't make.
Okay, so the question I have is how can a professional stand out on platforms like LinkedIn or you said TikTok?
I think, for me, this room really needs to focus on Facebook and LinkedIn and needs to focus on amplifying their videos with very small media amplifications in a very close radius to your business. The reason where do you live? Where's your business, brother?
I've come from India all the way and I'm exhibiting here at right now a couple of other conferences.
Understood. Michael, what town do you what town do you market in? My friend, Michael. Austin. If you market within a 10-mile radius of Austin, right, then the way you're standing out is by saying, I do services in Austin. You're winning on relevance of you stand out by being local. The biggest advantage all of you have before everybody starts using all these tools is they want to work with somebody in the general area. So I think the relevance is coming from the location. And then as long as you're speaking about things you're allowed to speak about and speak about how you would go about doing it, I think you'll be in a good place. I think people don't need much. You know, they don't need much. If you make, again, this is a great time of year, it's post-tax season. If you're just making a video every day of like, you know, one thing that a lot of people missed this tax season because it was a new law that passed last year was X, Y, and Z, or a watch out, or hey, you might have been writing this off for the last 6 years. FYI, this is our last year that we're gonna be able to do it, so keep this in mind. You're just talking the stuff you know. You're talking the stuff you know. So I think standing out to me in this room is predominantly Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I don't need people to go viral on TikTok here because those views may be in places where no one's gonna use you anyway. Right. Is kind of where I'm at mentally on that. Thank you, sir. Hi.
Привет.
Привет.
So, similar story for me, Belarus, Israel, America. One of the things that I found, I'm a CPA in a practice, is personality in accounting is challenging. And so what I do in my firm is encourage people to be themselves and to get out there and do it. But it's hard. And a lot of times we need to brand as a firm, not as an individual. So
Yep.
it's the constant combat.
I think it's an and. You know, I see this a lot in real estate as well. Like, I think you can brand both. You know, I think what's amazing about social is because it doesn't cost anything, you can post today and you could be about being Carol, or tomorrow you could be like, hey, it's Carol from XYZ firm. I think when you fall in love with and versus or, it really starts to make social make sense to people. This is a philosophical debate that actually ultimately doesn't matter to the end consumer. And I think you could just play with both. But I think you're making an important point. There is something else that I wanted to get to, and I appreciate you getting me there. The other thing you should be, so okay, you get motivated today and you're like, I'm gonna do it. And you've got 6 good tips on tax season. And then it's next week and you're like, all right, what do I do now? I think one of the things that a lot of you can do is actually talk about your interests. I think this is not gonna be lost on people. There are people in this room that have gotten business because they like golf, because they like fishing, because they like high school basketball, because they like the PTA, because they like baking, because they like X, Y, and Z. The other thing that I would recommend dramatically is taking your interests and integrating them into your social media content as gateways to getting business. It's not super complicated. Like, I'll just make up a video right now so it can help everybody. Hey, everybody, it's Rick, you know, here from the outskirts of, you know, Des Moines. Like many of you in town, I'm a huge fan of our high school basketball team. I can't believe they're going for their 18th win. I'm also an accountant in town. I know some of you, I don't know some of you, but very honestly, I'm just putting myself out there and my business out there more on social media. I'm gonna start tailgating for this big high school game at F18, 2 hours before the game, and I'm bringing some of my best bourbon and this chicken. If anybody wants to join me, I'll see you there. When you post that, and again, you spend $25 on people that live within a 10-mile radius, you would just be surprised. You would just be surprised. And what ends up happening in that scenario is 3 people show up, 6. But there are 3 or 6 people in town that you didn't know before who also happen to like the high school basketball team. And one of those people become a client. It's real life business. What's amazing about what I'm talking about, Monica, is so many people here built their businesses on the old school version of what I'm saying. A lot of when you moved into town, you started networking, you either had kids that were in Little League, like, I know, I can see the heads, not like, this is how you built your business. All I'm saying is that social media can make it 10x the way you did it. And there's a lot of people still in town in the general areas, and you could create a bigger net. I'm giving you 5 and 10 mile radius. Some of you live in rural areas and you're willing to drive an hour and a half for a customer. So great, make it a 100-mile radius. Next.
Hi, Gary. Nico Brady. So this question for you. You mentioned the fear factor.
Yes.
Which is a big personal philosophy of mine, is disengage with that. I have
Yes.
kids, but I was thinking about how do you apply that professionally? And a lot of us deal with clients here. So in this day and age, do you have tips, tricks, frameworks to help really destigmatize, educate clients? Because it's a negative environment that permeates on business owners. So offshore, I had a team in India I brought to my clients. I do the fractionalization, CFO, you mentioned that.
Nice.
But technology, AI, offshoring, how do we really distill that down? Because at the end of the day, I feel like I'm fighting battles on 3 fronts. Internally, with my partners, out in the market, building my personal brand, network, and then ultimately with clients who we're there to deliver for. How you really break that down so that they trust you as an advisor, you bring that to bear for them.
For me, it's been conviction over convincing. You know, what was worked for me, and again, it's nice to have such a long relationship with Monica, she'll tell you that so many of the things that I brought to the marketing world 15 years ago, people didn't believe, right? Like people didn't believe it. And I wasn't in the business of convincing. Not my brother. I remember telling my brother that, you know, we were gonna charge a lot more money for monthly social media creative. And he was like, bro, people are not gonna pay more than $5,000 a month for this. I didn't spend my time trying to convince my brother. I spent my time trying to build the capability and have conviction in what I believed, and then that execution would be the outcome. So I think don't get caught up in convincing your partners or your clients. Keep putting out the information, both one-on-one in meetings and publicly, and let the chips fall. You got it, brother. You can't convince the inconvincible, right? You can't convince certain people. It just will never happen. It's a huge waste of time. So many of you spend so much time trying to sell to unsellable people. Just don't do that. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Kyle. It's kind of a small firm, and a lot of talk today about bringing in new business and building that relationship. And I'm curious, who landed you as a fish? I imagine you have, quite a lot of, good client to land. What relationships do you have with who's responsible for your tax and accounting?
Great question. No, it's a great question.
They get you.
Yeah, it's a great question. I, like many people in life, early on in my life, just followed who my dad was using. My dad was using somebody locally in Springfield, New Jersey for his personal and business. As I started getting older, I took my family business from a $3 million a year business to a $65 million business in 5 years. So you can imagine a lot changed in our family quickly. And I could tell pretty quickly that good old Eddie locally was not gonna be able to take us to the next level. And so we then kind of switched to J.H. Cohn, which was a player in the Jersey area. And then in the last chapter of my career, I was an early investor in Facebook and Twitter and have built some very big companies. And so now I have family office dynamics and everything. They're my own internal employees. So that's my journey. Nothing too, very cliche. But what I think is interesting is I made those decisions not in the world we live in today. In fact, probably what motivates me so much is I would have been the exact person that would have hired from social media when I was ready to move on from Eddie Halper and my dad. This medium didn't exist then, but 28-year-old me would have found that person in that feed and been like, Dad, I want to work with this person. And that's what motivates me so much on the advice I'm giving here today. You're welcome. Yeah, yes, sir. Let's extend it as much as we can.
All right. Davey Dimitrov, Gary, nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
Quick question. So our firm acquires other firms. That's how we've been growing for the last 3 years. One of the things that's most challenging for us, I'm not a marketer. I don't post twice a day.
Yep.
The one thing is, so we borrow about 3 or 4 firms a year.
Yep.
And we have this issue of how long do we wait to merge the brand, and how do we go about merging the brand? How would you, do you have any tips, tricks that you can share?
I think, first of all, I'm excited that you're having that conversation because it is the right conversation. You will get economies of scale by creating a macro brand for all these things at some level. But to your point, some of these brands have a lot more equity locally. And if you do a poor job with the macro brand, you might actually lose a little momentum, right? I think there's no tips or tricks. I think, I have a lot of theses on brand. First, names are made. Nike meant nothing to no one until they executed. McDonald's sounds like an Irish pub on the corner down the street until it was made something. Google meant nothing, Facebook meant nothing. So I think people overthink brand names, right? So I think one, keep that in mind. It's execution that will get you there, but I think at some point it is appropriate if you're rolling up all this stuff to get to a macro brand. And then the execution, meaning the day-to-day content that brand puts out. Until you're ready for your brand to put out content every day about the brand, I wouldn't be in a rush to consolidate. That's really it. It's not very complicated, my friend.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You got it.
Hey, Gary.
Hey,
Somewhat technical question.
please, what's your name? Juan.
So, I think we've established that us, those of us in the room are not, particular experts in, cutting edge marketing, let's say. So the question would be, how would you evaluate advisors to help usher us into being more forward-looking in marketing, particularly at a time when the technology is evolving so rapidly?
Very carefully. It's very hard to judge someone's skill in a craft you don't understand. So I will give you this one tidbit. The disproportionate most important thing that marketing is living on right now is getting views organically on social media. For the first time in marketing history, marketers like us can judge if somebody's good at creative by how many views the video or the picture got when it was posted organically. This is gonna help a lot of you. For the first time ever in the 15 years of social media, how many followers you have no longer matters as much. I've spent 15 years amassing 60 million followers, and someone in this room can post a video tomorrow on TikTok and get more views than I get, which is insane. The merit is on the individual piece of content. So the way I would judge is I wouldn't pay someone to consult, I would pay someone to do. And I would have them post those videos organically, and I would judge them on how many views those videos are getting. That is how you judge. Now, you have to be fair to that person. If you've never posted before, you don't have a baseline. So you gotta give them 30 days to post and see what those numbers look like. Or you could look at competitors in the market, and you can see how many views they're getting, because that's how social works. The judgment today is based on how many views achieved by the organic. The organic. You can hide behind spending $1,000 on getting views. That's not doing anything. How many views did the post get organically?
So I wish we could go all morning, but unfortunately I have to wrap it up. Gary, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
This was
you.
awesome.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.